Warning. This video is for entertainment and informational use only. Please do not replicate any actions or behaviors shown in this video. The Unhappy Face channel and associates do not condone any views or remarks expressed in Freddy Got Fingered. All actions are performed by professionals.
Ah, behold, my friends, the golden coast of India. I, Christopher Columbus, am about to set foot into the fabled land of the East. You've never been to India, have you? No need to. I have an impeccable sense of direction. The compass, the stars, my lumbar. All of them say this is India. You know, I've got a strange feeling we're about to meet some folks who have no idea what the word spices even means. I'm talking corn. Just corn. Maybe the occasional pumpkin or chicken tendies leftovers. Corn? Corn? My dear man, you must have a heat stroke. We are at the very gates of India, and you speak of corn? Never mind that malarkey. Our names will be etched into the annals of history. Our conquest will bring with it a new world, one in which everything is possible. Our courage will lay the foundation for an era like none before, one of riches, glory, and endless discovery. A new dawn for mankind. I'm just saying, if I walk off this boat and someone hands me a vegetable, I'm going home. What you're about to see is one of the greatest pieces of art ever. And no, I'm not talking about Freddy Got Fingered. I'm talking about this. This is an 8-hour film titled Empire. Yes, 8 hours of nothing but the Empire State Building. Just sitting there. No plot, no action, no explosions. That's it. You might think I'm crazy, but let me explain. Andy Warhol, the creator of Empire, was one of the most important artists of the 20th century. He was also a grade A troll. He would do interviews where he went so far as to insult his own art, saying it in itself is devoid of meaning, that he does not want to say anything with it, which for any other artist would be a death blow to their reputation and legitimacy, but for Warhol, it kind of pushed him further, because, well, most people that are familiar with Warhol's work are of the sound opinion that he is straight up lying when it comes to his stated intent. Everyone looks at Warhol's pieces and says they are dense with meaning and are statements about capitalism, politics, culture, you get it. It's both full of meaning and completely meaningless at the same time, depending on whether or not you care. Like, you could say his work means nothing, but then the nothingness itself becomes its own kind of meaning. Is his art great because it means nothing, or is the meaning behind the art philosophically dense and sound, which would go against his stated intent, thus making it a failure despite still being great? And then you're stuck in this endless loop like a dog chasing its tail, wondering if you're the idiot or if Warhol is. Spoiler, it's you, you're the idiot. Back to Empire. Empire is probably the only film in the history of the underground art scene that its filmmaker does not want you to watch, and does not even need to be watched for more than a couple of minutes to completely understand it. At least that's my interpretation of it. Did I watch all 8 hours of it? Fuck no, but that's kind of the point, isn't it? The way this film was marketed back when it came out was that Warhol was making a powerful movie about New York City and its towering symbol. And so New Yorkers expected an equally fitting cinematic marvel, but instead, Warhol took a look at the Declaration of Independence and then just drew a dick on it and threw it into the fucking trash. And after mere minutes of this one static and honestly kind of eerie frame, the audience at the premiere started to revolt and demanded their money back. Within a handful of minutes, whether intentional or not, Andy Warhol was able to turn New York City against itself. And the reason why I find myself so moved by Empire is because it is a one-of-a-kind artwork that can only exist in cinema. It could never just be a photograph. You need to be wary of its movement. You need its girth, basically. It's a meditation on time, on our limited understanding of it, how little of it we have available, and how we waste it on stupid, meaningless shit instead of spending it on something useful. At least, that's what it means to me. I don't know what Andy Warhol thought it meant when he set up the camera, and we never will. Every once in a while, the gods of the YouTube algorithm recommend me the full video of Empire, with its titular structure menacingly towering in the distance. And every time I see it in my feed, I get a little shiver down my spine, thinking about all the things I could be doing right now. Why? Because just think about the countless hours you've spent on stuff like mindless online scrolling, procrastination, and how many viewings of Empire would have been accumulated across all of that time. But that's not what this is about, right? For the uninitiated, Freddy Got Fingered is a 2001 comedy film written, directed, produced, and starring MTV's Pringly prankster, Tom Green.
I'm just gonna buy some of these condoms.
And it is also the most fascinating movie I've ever seen in my entire life. Of course, as a film critic, I have come across all sorts of weird and fascinating movies, from atrocities like Fateful Findings all the way up to certified masterpieces like Mulholland Drive, and I honestly don't know which of these Freddy Got Fingered resembles more. This film has garnered a reputation of being one of the worst movies ever made, although some people have come around and praised it as a piece of neo-surrealist art. What is my opinion on it? Personally, I would agree with the latter. If the contents of this film were truly intentional, which is doubtful. There's some scenes in this movie that definitely feel intentional. Very tongue-in-cheek satire of what was, for its time, considered modern comedy, and American society in general during this post-Cold War, pre-9/11 American economic boom period. But there's also so much stuff in this movie where it just feels like Tom Green is trying to put the most random, delusional, and stupid stuff imaginable in this film just to see if he could get away with it. I mean, within the first 5 minutes of the movie, and I'm not making any of this up, Tom Green is jerking off a horse for no reason, and he still didn't get an NC-17 rating. So, why am I doing this? The main reason why this movie fascinates me so much is because on a technical level, there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. Looking at the structure, the way it was shot and edited, it is fundamentally fine. Some shots even look great. People who knew how to make a movie were working on this. It even features an honestly great comedic performance by Rip Torn. It even plays well with its archetypes, but we are getting to that later. Oh boy, are we getting to this later? And the story, using the term loosely here, hits all the necessary beats of your usual comedy film. The script, looking at it purely from a standpoint of story structure, is fine. The thing is, it kind of vaguely resembles a movie. The act of actually watching it, however, is a whole nother undertaking entirely. It is genuinely baffling how this exists, and bizarre how close it gets to almost feel like a real thing. At times while I was watching, it almost lost me, and I thought, there's no way Tom Green knew what he was doing. But then, he was blasting Flight of the Valkyries from a helicopter, and then the last 10 minutes or so happened. And viewer, I was enlightened. But we will get to that. Ladies and gentlemen, Freddy Got Fingered, whether intentional or not, is not just another early 2000s gross-out comedy. There seems to be actual meaning, I think. Before I move on, I do have to address the elephant in the room. And no, by that I do not mean the war crimes that I have committed in the Balkans, but the intense and gross things that this movie makes fun of. Including, but not limited to...
You don't have to wait for later, he's a new eliminator. Ask your local weapon trader for the super perforator. Stress? Just cool it, here's a special bullet. Put it in the magazine, boom, bang into your bean.
You can call the operator for the super perforator. Killing is our habit.
Make your reader like a rabbit, but before you die, my dear,
Have a final glass of beer, and before the break of dawn, you have your back where you belong.
sprinkling the dawn.
Bully bang bang, bang boom boom, meet your doom, call us soon, the local weapon trader.
With your super perforator.
Cheers!
Some of these jokes, well, most of these jokes don't really work. But there is a deeper brilliance to most, well, some of them. For example, pretty early on in the movie, Tom Green harasses the studio executive. With his ideas for a comic, who tells him that nothing he created makes any sense and isn't funny. So he tells him to get inside the animals to find inspiration. Obviously, a sentence no one would take literally. So, first chance he gets, Tom Green finds a dead deer on the open road. And then cosplays roadkill, basically. This is, of course, fucking stupid. But it is stupid in such an absurd and disgusting way that the mere existence of that scene is comedy on its own. And the worst thing is, structurally, it's good comedy because it has setup, build-up, and execution, plus like multiple angles of interest to watch the scene from for it to work, as your gross-out content, as your standalone joke, and as a meta-examination of the movie itself, where the movie's own director is going up to a studio head for advice, who tells him that his art, which in this case represents the movie itself, is shit. And so as a creative exercise, Green attempts to make a movie, having no idea how to do that, so he just does whatever. And then breaks the rules of the movie metaphor and how to do proper subtext. Do you see what we are working with here? Alright, let's calm things down for a sec. Tom Green is clearly a madman, but there is a method to the madness, and maybe the act of me analyzing this movie is part of the joke. That is just what we're going to do. I'm gonna go through the movie and try to analyze not what it's supposed to mean, but what the meaning ended up being in the final product, especially looking at this movie through a cultural lens. I'm not going to go through every single scene of this movie because I've already established that there are some scenes in here that are just plain useless and unnecessary. However, I am going to mention them if they are brilliant. Which means now it is finally time for...
DJ Khaled!
So, Frederick Finger starts off with a down on his luck Gord Brady, our protagonist, showing us his newest creation, X-Ray Cat. After that, we get an opening credit sequence over a scene in which a 28-year-old adult man is skating through a shopping mall. Now, alright, if it was shot differently and, had a teenager doing it rather than a grown-ass man, it might even be somewhat of an endearing scene. However, the way it was shown does a perfect job at providing us with all the necessary information that this main character is a demented sociopath. And it also seems like some sort of inherent rejection of what a film should be, since here we have Tom Green arriving in Hollywood, a place of tradition and grace, here portrayed by this perfectly functioning society, only for them to brace themselves from the rebel who is doing things differently. We then meet his ideal American family, Father Jim, Mother Julie, and little brother Freddy, and they have a parting gift for him, his own car. And if you think his dad is a weird fellow in this scene, then you just wait, son. Gord starts his journey to LA, but on the way there, he makes a short stop at a farm and sees a horse with a raging erection, runs over to it, and begins to, well, shake hands with the milkman for absolutely no reason whatsoever. This is a very important scene for the movie. I am fucking amazed I'm saying this, because there is no setup, and in joke terminology, there is no joke. It is, however, almost formative for what the movie is going to be. Insignificant masturbation. The scene is placed exactly at the point of the movie where the plot is supposed to get rolling, when Gord is starting his cliché road trip, but instead, out of nowhere, we get that. It sets the tone for the nouveau this movie is going to have. Doubles down as a meta-satire of American entertainment at the time, Tom Green masturbating the audience for momentary satisfaction and shit. And to be fair, it does have a payoff in some ways at the end of the movie, so it was irreplaceable. I hope my family is not watching this. Gord arrives in Hollywood and has his first and last day of work at the cheese sandwich factory, because for whatever reason, he cannot concentrate and starts doing whatever the hell this is. The plot finally starts to get going when Gord storms the nearest animation studio, pretending to be a delivery man. A wild Drew Barrymore appears, with whom he was married at the time in real life. She wants to know what all the commotion is about, and he tells her that the wife of Mr. Dave Davidson, great name by the way, the head of the studio, has died. As a ploy to get a chance to talk to him, she's totally fine. She tells him he's at lunch, where shortly thereafter, Gord appears dressed as a British police constable. Here we get the aforementioned scene where Davidson tells Gord that his work doesn't make any sense and he should try to get inside the animals. Disappointed, he goes back home to his family. His mother welcoming him back with open arms, his father, not so much. We meet Gord's friend Darren. He wears a suit and works in a bank, which tells us that he has a much higher social standing than Gord and also acts more mature, but is peer pressured by Gord to try out his new skate ramp he built, which injures him horribly. And if the deer scene has not been indication enough for you, this is where the movie turns into overdrive. Gord arrives at a hospital and talks to the most incompetent receptionist ever. Her name is Betty, probably the most generic name they could have chosen, to be honest. Instead of checking for his friend's well-being, Gord asks Betty out on a date, who shockingly accepts. He goes a lot further than he needs to and acts like he's a stockbroker. Then it is revealed that Betty is paralyzed from the waist down. Gord's glee dwindles. And now, the most iconic scene of the movie. Gord finds Darren with a woman going into labor in the same room, which prompts him to help deliver the baby. And then in the most mean-spirited way possible, he pulls the baby from out of the woman, is flung back by it. He then proceeds to bite off the umbilical cord. Then the movie teases Gord having accidentally killed the baby, only for him to then swing the baby over his head, squirting blood all over the room, including over 2 middle-aged indigenous women doing a traditional song I haven't even mentioned yet. And somehow the baby lives. This is the greatest film ever made. Now, the context of this scene is of course non-existent, other than once again taking a common comedy cliche and turning it up to absolute fucking max. Remember the Mr. Bean feature film where he lives with this family in LA? The plot ends with Bean pretending to be a doctor and saving both the wounded cop and the comatose daughter. The comedy is, of course, how this unqualified idiot is dumb enough to accomplish these things, but if you remove the comedy from the scene, it becomes incredibly uncomfortable and upsetting that something like this is happening. So Freddy Got Fingered does, in fact, that. Once again, there is no joke other than the absurdity of coming up with something like that. Tom Green takes the cliche of the doofus doctor and highlights how weirdly invasive this character actually is, which, if that was the intention of the scene, which I guarantee you it's not, amazing. After this whole ordeal, Gord still decides to visit Betty at home, and we find out that she has a passion for scientific engineering. Gord suggests they go to a movie together, but she can't go anywhere, which will be important later. Instead, Betty convinces him to repeatedly hit her legs as hard as he can, which gives her sexual pleasure. Afterwards, she enthusiastically gives him a blowjob. I think the meaning of this scene is pretty on the nose, however, for some reason I never see it discussed anywhere. Betty represents this typical hot love interest character of the comedy genre, entirely existing only to give the main character pleasure and basically be a punching bag for him to do whatever he wants with her. The removal of her ability to walk adds an extra layer of being trapped in this cage of misogyny, but more on her later, I promise. The next day, it is revealed that Gord's little brother Freddy has also got a high-end job at the bank, making Jim proud that he at least has one son that follows his image. After which we get another one of these completely useless scenes that have nothing to do with the plot or anything, but just the sheer existence of it is enough for me to include it, so...
Tell the difference between hot and cold. What the fuck is going on?
I'm underwater. Look, I found a treasure.
A treasure? That's soap on a rope.
Pretending it's a treasure.
Get out of my goddamn scuba gear, you imbecile!
Oh no, the treasure! It went into that underwater cave!
Get out of the toilet! Get out of the toilet!
You saved me from the giant barracuda! But look, I salvaged the treasure. We can live like kings! We can live like kings!
Forget that fucking soap, you clean up this mess and get your ass out that door looking for a job, you retard.
Gord mocks Freddy and decides to use his day to work on some new sketches until Jim comes home from his job, and then we get a wonderful scene.
The backwards man, the backwards man, the backwards man, the backwards man. I can walk backwards fast as you can. I can walk backwards fast as you can. I'm the backwards man, the backwards man. I can walk backwards fast as you can. I'm the backwards man, the backwards man. Backwards man, the backwards man. The backwards man, the backwards man. Backwards man, the backwards man. I can walk backwards fast as you can. I can walk backwards fast as you can.
Dad, what? God.
He lies to his dad that he got a job, and Jim gives him the suit and $100 to boot. Betty wants to give Gordon another blowjob, but he convinces her instead to go out on a date. So they do in fact go out to a fancy restaurant, literally called Fancy Restaurant. And if you've seen one comedy film in your entire life, then you already know what a fancy restaurant scene entails. Our characters go to the restaurant. Something plot-related breaks the high establishment atmosphere, and the scene culminates in a chaotic destruction of the restaurant, usually through a food fight, and that is exactly what happens here. During his date with Betty, Gord tries to impress her by being an asshole and gets a fake call where he screams from the top of his lungs, once again trying to sound like an important stockbroker, which raises the attention of his father, who conveniently has been eating in the same restaurant at the same time. Green once again leans into a cliché the most aggressive way possible. Jim discovers that Gord lied to him about the job, which prompts the two of them to start a brawl, which of course upsets Betty, and the chaos escalates from there in repeatedly stupid ways. Green leans into the cliché, doesn't try to subvert it at all, and shows it in such an overblown yet basic way, which highlights the inherent stupidity of the cliché itself. He even climbs on top of the piano and sprays water all over the room, actively sabotaging the scene. Again, if intentional, brilliant. Tom Green goes out of his way to include these scenes and tries to make them as unfunny as possible to either really show us how unfunny these clichés really are and asks us how we can laugh at shit like that, or he's just an idiot. I don't know which one it is. It is either bad parody or incredible satire. After that scene, Betty bails Gord out of jail and immediately forgives him, after which he tells her the truth of what he actually tries to do for a living, which is creating art. She gives him some advice to be more productive, which works out well.
Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like some sausages?
Jim has enough of Gord, smashes his setup and destroys his ramp. This prompts the family to go to counseling together, and the character motivations for the two leads are revealed.
Sounds to me like he just wants you to accept him.
As long as he lives in my house and eats my food, I make the rules.
I want to eat chicken burgers!
Gord once again weasels his way out of a serious situation by lying to the counselor that Jim secretly touches Freddy, which for some reason everyone believes. Then Gord makes a grand escape.
You're gonna pay! He's a molester! He's a child molester! Ah! 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 Ah!
You better run! You liar!
The counselor and the police then arrive at the Brady estate and take Freddy with them to the Institute for Sexually Molested Children, despite Freddy telling them repeatedly that nothing ever happened. Jim gets drunk and tears up Gord's drawings, then mocks him by pulling down his own pants and tells his son to fuck him, which is of course the only thing from the exchange that his wife sees, and she files for divorce. While Gord's life falls apart, Betty thrives by building a rocket-powered wheelchair. Gord lets his anger out on her, and we get this stereotypical they'll go their separate ways only to find back to each other later trope. Now, let's talk about Betty. For what it's worth, I think Betty is a genius character, and at the same time the biggest middle finger and warmest hug of the movie. When we meet her, she's portrayed as this dumb girl next door type and then made almost undesirable for Gord when it is revealed that she is disabled. When Gord visits her for the first time, however, the trope of the female love interest, in an essence, is literally shown and explained to the audience for all to see. She can't walk, and is therefore trapped in a perpetual state of dependency from our male protagonist. Her disability is used as an exception for Gord to abuse her, and she literally only exists to give Gord blowjobs. That is her primary motivation, or so we think. Over the course of the movie, Betty talks about trying to invent a rocket-powered wheelchair, which she later does. Through sheer determination and persistence, her disability becomes the catalyst of her resilience and ingenuity. Other than Gord, who has all good things that happen to him be a result of extreme luck. But Betty's character arc is the story of a disabled woman doing something outstanding. The comparison between her and Gord is key here. Why is the film about this loser character and not about Betty? She is even scolded for attempting to leave her distinct box that the movie is set for her. Betty is an actual smart subversion of the comedy love interest trope on Tom Green's part, and her writing seems very intentional, to be fair to him. It's at this point where I have to talk about Gord as a character, because he is not a character. Like, sure, he has an arc, but he has the exact same arc that Tom Green has in real life. Throughout the entire movie, Gord acts like an absolute maniac, does stupid and seemingly pointless shit all the time, uses different fake voices throughout the movie. Take the scene when he works in the cheese sandwich factory, where he takes a giant sausage and acts like it's his dick while harassing his co-workers. It comes across like Tom Green intentionally sabotaging his own performance and makes fun of his own role as an actor and the formula of the comedy protagonist. So Gord is essentially an extension of Tom Green and is interchangeable with the man himself, as there is absolutely no dedication shown to portraying a different character. This self-awareness is, ironically, what makes the character and the entire movie work, especially when comparing Tom Green's horrible performance to Rip Torn's genuinely great performance alongside him. On top of that, a second layer, as Gord himself is frequently playing different roles. He pretends to be a friend of the studio exec, he pretends to be a police officer, he pretends to be a doctor, he pretends to be a stockbroker, he pretends to be a scuba diver pirate thingy, and of course, most blatantly, he pretends to be a deer in the middle of the road. Tom Green takes the role of a guy who constantly questions his own talent and tries to be someone he isn't, because he thinks that who he is not good enough. It feels like Freddy Got Fingered is this product of Tom Green himself being uncomfortable in the position he found himself in. Tom Green, just in general, is also not even a person, I think. And I'm talking about the idea of Tom Green, you know, the archetype of him, so to speak. He is more or less an amalgamation of the post-grunge era rebel, leaning into all the, here comes the word again, cliches of the time period. He wears baggy clothes, he raps, he skateboards, he has a horrible prank show on MTV. Dude was the walking 90s zeitgeist for fuck's sake. And that is the main reason why I think that Freddy Got Fingered was intentional. My thesis is that Tom Green did not want to make a movie. See, he was already a pretty well-liked dude, staying in his lane of late evening comedy shows and skating videos. But then his growth in popularity around the turn of the millennium inspired 20th Century Fox to fund a movie for and with him, thinking it would make them a nice profit in the younger demographic. And then Tom Green smelled blood, and intentionally sabotaged the movie as a critique on the entertainment industry establishment. This might sound like a long shot, but as I mentioned earlier, the last sort of 30 minutes of the movie support this theory to the fullest extent. And this is where the film actually gets really fucking good. After Gord once again tries to convince the TV executive to pick up his ideas, who was initially having none of it, Jim storms the meeting and the exec, thinking it was a bit, signs him up with a check of $1 million to produce his show, Zebras in America, for his network. Then, a scene in which Tom Green, really predicted the short attention spans and TikTok double video era of the internet.
Hi, my name is Harry. You hear the funny sound? You hear the funny sound? It's my hooves. It's my hooves. I'm not getting a stupid job, Dad. I never had a part-time job in Africa.
How dare you?
So check us out. You'll love it how simple misunderstandings always seem to get us into a whole heap of trouble. It's crazy. Listen to my hooves. Yeah. Listen to my hooves. Yeah. Listen to them cloppity clop. Listen to them cloppity clop. Zebra in America.
I can actively count the brain cells that I am losing when I watch this scene. Then, the moment where the film finally clicked for me. Gord uses a bunch of his money to rent a helicopter as an elaborate apology to Betty, and then uses the rest of it as a prank to move his father's house to Pakistan while he's unconscious, essentially using all of the money given to him for useless garbage. And then we get the revelation of the movie from Tom Green himself.
Because I had $1 million, okay? And then I spent $150,000 on the jewels, okay? And then I spent $100,000, I rented a helicopter, okay? And then you add the $750,000, that's all my money. That's all my money gone. It's $1 million gone. No, easy come, easy go.
Yeah.
Now, for comparison, let's look at Tom Green's career. He is a guy that accidentally got famous through his skating videos and was given a TV show out of nowhere, MTV, thinking that he is playing a character. Then Fox gives him a shitload of money to make a movie for them that everyone hated, essentially using all of the money given to him for useless garbage. He's a guy that got a lucky break even though he didn't necessarily deserve it, so Green made a movie about exactly that. While in Pakistan, Gord gets chased by his dad, but he is able to incapacitate Jim by rubbing off an elephant and spraying him down. See, I told you it had a payoff! While on the ground, Gord tells his dad that he made $1 million through his doodles and basically spent it all for his father. This makes him see the enthusiasm and potential success in his art. Gord did it. His father is proud of him.
I am proud of you.
Now, if the film ended right here with maybe a throwaway joke to accompany the audience, it would have been a satisfying ending. But of course, there was just a little bit more. And it's a scene that, frankly put, cannot be removed from a movie.
What is this?
Jim and Gord are captured by slave traders. Thankfully for them, as Zebras in America becomes a big hit, the US government intervenes to rescue the duo. Also, a Shaq cameo. Then the good stuff. Gord and Jim arrive back home, with a crowd of people enthusiastically greeting him back as some sort of hero. Then, Gord enters a limousine with the American flag superimposed upon Tom Green's face. This imagery is a deliberate exaggeration, yet it encapsulates an undercurrent of self-indulgence and self-aggrandizement prevalent in American culture. It also serves as a critique towards the American culture by way of, look America, this is what you are, this is what you like, this is what you hath created. Greeneronomy 2K01. Freddy Got Fingered is a film that couldn't have been made in any other time frame. It released in March of 2001, 6 months removed from the seriousness of 9/11, still coasting off of the post-Reagan era. There was a sense of optimism and relief. It was only natural that the comedy genre was huge at the time. It reflected the culture, being the so far last period of American history where the country lived in economic prosperity. Like the audience, the comedies of that time just hung out their balls. By 2001, comedy was nothing but cheap, mean-spirited pranks and jackass gross-out humor, so Tom Green's inherent sabotage of his own movie, despite the normal structure of said genre, almost makes the audience ask themselves why they even find this sort of stuff entertaining in the first place, and in a broader sense, make them question everything around them as a whole. So, to conclude this clusterfuck, I have one question, dear viewer. How much of an idiot did I make myself look like by making this? I mean, I have so much stuff that I want to do, yet I did this. Why? It is a film that does not want to be analyzed, and when I try to do just that, it makes me look like much more of an idiot than Tom Green was trying to be. It probably wasn't even a good analytical piece, as I just threw everything at you basically, and buzzwords that to me sounded like they make the movie work for me. You can never really know the artist's true intent. I think that too often people look at art and try to conclusively decipher what the artist meant by it. And yes, I did just call Freddy Got Fingered art. Who's to say that it is a bad movie? If we compare it to The Godfather, for example, one of the most revered movies of all time, which one is better? Most people, myself included for the record, would say that The Godfather is a better movie. But there are numerous people who prefer Freddy Got Fingered and say it's a better movie, and it's not a wrong opinion to have. Where would we be if we all had to hold each art piece to the same standard and have the same collective opinion about it? Comparing the two would be futile because they are fundamentally different experiences. One invites reflection on moral dilemmas and the dark side of the American dream, and the other is The Godfather. Both have something to say, but the nature of what they say and how they say it are entirely different. To go one step further, let's take a look at the Mona Lisa, probably the most famous piece of art ever. Isn't she beautiful? Now, let's take a look at this self-portrait from Pablo Picasso. Which one is better? The answer? Probably neither. If we purely talk about the technical skill that goes into the creation of a painting, the Mona Lisa has the edge. She reflects a realistic and detailed image of a woman that was actually alive. But not every painting was made to be realistic. Abstraction and surrealism were birthed out of the Industrial Revolution, mixed with the artist's creativity. The photo camera was invented, and there was no need to paint people per se. Picasso's self-portraits are famous out of a lie, a widespread and incorrect belief that the ever-increasingly weird self-portraits reflected a decline in his mental state and the onset of madness. In reality, Picasso was a highly skilled artist who mastered classical techniques early in his life. By age 15, he was already producing realistic and technically proficient works. However, Picasso constantly sought new ways to express himself, and his cubist self-portraits are a reflection of his artistic exploration, not a decline in mental health. Both are great. Both ask questions, both offer answers, but they do through vastly different methods, and comparing them is like trying to compare two separate languages. Art is unique in that it exists as both a product of the artist's intent and the viewer's personal life experience, because it speaks in symbols, abstractions, and emotions. Art transcends conventional language, making it the highest form of communication we have. So the real question that needs to be asked is, what is my intent when making this video? Is it to manipulate your perception of a dumb comedy movie through what I took from it? Is it to brag to other people for being more media literate than them? Is it to help people understand the movie better as if they couldn't figure it out for themselves? Is it to make fun of Tom Green? Is it to throw my hat into the ring of view chasing by making something that doesn't need to be made to try and start a content creator career? Or is it to talk about a movie that I'm fascinated by and want to share my perspectives on it? When I ask these questions of varying possibilities of my intent, did I purposefully leave the only positive one for the end in order to manipulate you into siding with me, disregarding everything I said prior, and to make you think that that was my true intent? Let's go back to something I mentioned earlier about Gord and how he frequently dresses up as someone he isn't. He doesn't think he is worthy of his father's love as is, and so tries to constantly mask himself as someone he isn't, because he fears that what he is isn't good enough. You see, this film is so meta that in a weird, abstract way, I saw myself reflected in it. Now, usually I don't jerk off animals or harass pregnant women, but I have exaggerated before when it comes to maybe, I don't know, my own accomplishments and talents, or little harmless stories told at the dinner table or at friends' gatherings that spice up the conversation, because I feel that whatever my experiences isn't interesting enough to have a conversation about or keep one going. The way this sort of masking thing was portrayed in such an exaggerated way, I don't know what this movie did to me. It wasn't a lot, but it was something. Can't quite put my finger on it. You may not agree with my analysis. In fact, I encourage you not to. Imagine if there was an interview with Tom Green where he perfectly explained every aspect of this movie. First of all, no one would believe him. Second of all, that would make the movie so much more boring to watch, and that's the beauty of it. I promise my videos going forward, whenever they may come out, are going to be a lot different than this one. They're still going to be mostly about analyzing great and complex works, because that's just what I love to do. Maybe some reviews of newer movies I really like, maybe some philosophy because I'm boring as shit, but they're mostly gonna be as much about myself as the works themselves. The reason why I'm saying this is because this is the case for every single content creator out there, no matter how much of a facade they put on. It is always just people projecting their own biases onto a piece of work that someone else made, and then they act like they have something to say about it. So keep that in mind. And that is my review / video essay / existential nightmare. I hope you got some enjoyment out of it. And to conclude this video, look, America, this is me. Thanks, Chris.
Monster on the beat, ho. They not like us. 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 Beat your ass and hide the Bible if God watching. They not like us. 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 Say Drake, I hear you like I'm young. You better not ever go to cell block 1. To any bitch that talk to him and they in love, just make sure you hide your little sister from him. They tell me Chubb's the only one that get your hand-me-downs and party at the party playing with his nose now. And Baca got a weird case, why is he around? Certified lover boy, certified pedophile. Wop, 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 wop. That fuck him up. Wop, 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 wop. I'ma do my stuff. Why you trolling like a bitch? Ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord and it's probably A minor. That fuck him up. I'ma do my stuff. That fuck him up. I'ma do my stuff. He a fan, he a fan, he a fan. He a fan, he a fan, he a freaky ass nigga, he a 69 God. Freaky ass nigga, he a 69 God. Hey, 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 run for your life. Hey, 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 run for your life. Freaky ass nigga, he a 69 God. Freaky ass nigga, he a 69 God. Hey, 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 run for your life. Hey, 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 run for your life. Let me say OV ho. Say OV ho. Then step this way, step that way. Then step this way, step that way. Are you my friend? Are we locked in? Then step this way, step that way. Then